Hello, my name's Georgia. I'm the narrative co-director of Wayward Strand. Before we begin today, I'd like to acknowledge the country that I'm coming from on this call. I'm here in the country of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I extend my deepest respects to their elders past, present and becoming, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. And on the call, we've got people joining from Wurundjeri and Bunurong country and the Kulin Nation as well. So everyone else, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, my name is Goldie Bartlett. I'm one of the developers who was working on the game Wayward Strand, which is the game we're talking about today. My role on the team was mostly visual art focused, but I also crossed into a little bit of like business land, and we all wear a lot of different hats. Yeah, I'm an indie, and that's about all I can think of right now. I'm very brain fried right now.
Yeah, I can go next. I'm Jason, he, him, and on Wayward Strand I did some co-writing along with Georgia, programming, production, um, something else. I did a lot of the like scene direction, which is kind of like getting the characters to like move around in the scenes and play the right animations and look at each other and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I guess yeah. Previously, I'd worked at League of Geeks on Armello and Wicked Witch on Cannibal King, but yeah, I have been working on Wayward Strand for a long time now, and it's finally out.
And then there's me. Hello. My name's Alan, he, him. I am the newest member of the team as of like less than 3 weeks ago. But yeah, I'm working on QA at the moment here. But before this, I do a little bit of a mix of design and art, doing art for Video World for Things for Humans and some art direction for a game called Visca as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Great.
Alan came on and saved our butts about 3 weeks ago when we were about to
Yeah,
launch,
three
and yeah,
3 weeks ago we had a team meeting and we said, hey, do we think it's problematic that we haven't started making the game yet? And we said, yeah, there's this person, Alan, and we could get him to make a game for us called Wayward Strand.
yeah,
Um,
So
so
that
yeah, thanks, Alan.
you're welcome. That was a
Amazing
hundred
work.
percent accurate, and that did happen. And everyone should hire me now. Thank you.
well, that part's definitely true.
Yeah. The last
Yeah,
part,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hey, we made a game. Pretty cool.
yeah,
Sure did.
yeah. This is yeah, the celebration panel or whatever. But
Celebratory pedal.
yeah. But I guess like yeah, we were talking just before we hit record about how there's a lot of like awesome vibes and good things, but we'll probably just kind of chat together and see how everybody's feeling. And some of it's positive, some of it might be negative, but that's fine. Like that's launching a game is a massive thing, and I feel like every year of development you have on there, it just um, puts into the bank more and more like emotion and emotional investment and expectations, and just it just makes it a bigger thing. And so that means that when you actually click the button and this thing happens, which for you and the rest of the team is like this biggest thing ever, it's very difficult, I think, almost for any developer or any creator to not feel a little bit like, I don't know, like the wind is let out of the sails or something. I mean,
Yeah,
unless,
it's like a
it is
basic
like a,
physics, right? Like
yeah,
the momentum
exactly.
has just been stopped.
Yeah, totally. Like everything's built up to this one moment, and then, you know, it's
It's
not,
like
it's not that it fizzles, but
we've
it's,
thrown the frisbee and the
yeah,
frisbee's flying.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like flying in the air, and all of the like moment to moment exertion and energy that we've been putting it into it for so long is
Exactly.
now just Well, now what do we do?
Let's watch that
I
baby
was
fly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how, so my background's in theatre, as some people
Yeah.
already know, and I was thinking about how when you make a theatre show, even if I mean, firstly, very few theatre shows would take 7 years to make, but even if it did take 7 years to make, you have an opening night and you have hopefully a full house of people, and you experience the thing with them in real time, and then you experience the vibe in the room afterwards, and people are talking with you afterwards, and whether or not they're completely honest with you, you at least get this sort of feeling in the room of what's happening for people. Are they laughing at the jokes? Do people seem emotionally impacted by it? And we all met up at a bar on the day of the launch and just kind of hit the big green button on Steam
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And I think the feeling of being there, like the primary thing was that it was just nice to be there. But we sort
Yeah.
of hit the button and then it was like, cool. What's
Yeah.
what are people doing?
Yeah.
What's people's weekend plans?
Should we get
Yeah.
And
some
I was talking
pizza?
with
Yeah.
one of my
Exactly.
I was talking with one of my partners about this, and she was like, ceremony. You know, like
Yeah.
this is why ceremony exists. This is why
Yeah.
things like weddings and funerals and things like this have this like order of proceedings and these like moments that are really like heightened. It's because otherwise you do this
Yeah.
big thing and then and then it stops.
Yeah.
Somebody, I don't remember who, I think, no, I can't remember who I was talking to, but somebody did say it to me at some point, like, oh, you're gonna want to be together when you press the big green button. Like so many other people who are probably listening to this talk. You know, we've been working from home throughout lockdowns, but then since lockdowns as well, and so, you know, we'd grown accustomed to working online. And I thought, oh god, you know, if we press that big green button, it was going to be 5 p.m. Australian time, and then sort of just sit online together and like we always do, and then close our computer lids and go off into the night. It wasn't gonna quite give us that sense of ceremony or
Yeah.
respect of the monumental thing for us. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it was a good choice.
Yeah.
I think for me as well, because that night was when I met a lot of you for the first time.
Exactly.
And so it was a very surreal experience for me having just joined the team, because it's like, whoa, this is a really big momentous occasion, and it feels very odd that I'm sitting here.
Alan, I have to be frank. I walked in and I didn't know who you were.
Exactly.
And I never checked.
That's fine.
Because I'm quite accustomed to being a little bit separate from a lot of the process, especially the technical processes, because I've been so focused on the narrative, the voiceover, and I haven't really been involved in the rest of it. So I thought maybe you were someone who'd been with the team for a lot longer or something. And I was like, I don't know who that is. I'm sure that they've been around for ages and it's just a me problem. So I think I pieced it together over the night that you were the Alan who I'd been seeing on Slack who'd been brought on really recently, and I was like, okay, I haven't actually met this person before in the context of Wayward Strand.
Yeah.
We've known each other for years. Like, that's the beauty of Melbourne always, is like, I've known Ellen, I think we've known each other sort of as acquaintances
Yeah,
since,
definitely.
what, 20...
16, I think.
Yep.
Around
So
there.
the whole time of the project, anyway, you know,
Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be like a little panel or talk that would greatly benefit people who are either game developers or interested in game development, you know.
Yeah, totally.
It's not an ad for Wayward Strand. It's not even like self-promotion. It's more just like we are like, to our both, you know, positive and negative, we are a very open studio with our thoughts and feelings on like the human process behind our creative practice. And I think that's, if you're interested in like hearing an honest take on how we're all feeling, how we've been feeling, stick around. And it's nice to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
well,
Oh yeah. No, you go ahead, Georgia.
I was just going to say on that, why don't we get into it? I mean, like we've released a little bit of content about like how we were feeling in the lead up, and of course people might have some public perception of how it's gone in terms of how the reviews have been, which thankfully have been so lovely and very good. But I want to ask how people have been feeling. It has been just a little over a week that's been out there in the world. And I can start off by saying I've had probably the cruisiest time of anyone, because my work on the game really wrapped some months ago. Like once the voiceover was recorded earlier in the year, my only involvement has really been to like help out with the tweeting and just occasionally drop into the Slack and say, I love you all. And on the night before the release, I was describing it to people around me as kind of being the non-birthing parent when a baby is being born, sort of like caring a lot and being acquainted with what's happening, but not having any, like, it's not going on in my body. It's not, I'm not the one, pressing the buttons or, doing the labor or anything. And sort of the conflicted feeling of that, of like wanting to help, but not knowing how. But yeah, I've just been able to then sit back since it's come out and just be really thrilled and blown away with the reception that it's had and just how much people are responding to it. And there are a lot of times throughout the process where, as a team or individually, we sort of said, oh, we think the game does X, Y, or Z things, but will it really? Will people get it? Will people just find it boring? What will people make of it? And overwhelmingly, it just really seems like we've done what we thought we were doing, and that's an incredible feeling. So that's been my experience, but I know everyone's experience has been different. So what have other people had going on in the last week since it's come out?
I have not been practicing self-care since this game came out. Straight up. I've been full of the emotional roller coaster is very real for me. Very positive feelings of, pride in a way, like, yep, this is a great thing, I'm proud of it, and a lot of thinking of like being 80 years old and like saying, yeah, I did do that, and it's like a big life achievement kind of thing. And relief is another positive one in a way, like, oh, it's done and we did it, and like we did it well, and people are receiving it well. And then of course, like, the pleasure of seeing how well it is connecting with people feels satisfying in a way, like the artistic statement was met. And then on the opposite side, I'm letting my little brain get in the way and become fixated on things that it shouldn't. Like I am like refreshing pages looking for engagement, and I am refreshing pages looking for reviews and nice comments, and that's really not a good way to spend your time. And so that's been something that I've been kind of like struggling with. Luckily I was kicked off the Wayward Strand Twitter this week, which I think was like really good thing. I was just like forced to take a break, and I don't know, I mean, I'm gonna get back into habits. We've got like some interviews coming up. I'll have gym tomorrow as well, which will be good, and just sort of start figuring out what life looks like after a 6-year stint of the same creative project. When you're a freelance artist, it's it's a roller coaster.
I think that's one of the biggest things is like when your life has been kind of framed around that I'm making this thing, and then that's gone suddenly, and it kind of, like we're still doing stuff on it. We're still like fixing bugs every now and then, or like working on some like little quality of life features and stuff, and also that like there's actually there's quite a bit of work involved in the marketing side of things, and thinking about like trying to make sure that we're in narrative game sales that happen in like 3 months time or
submitting
whatever it is.
for awards.
Yeah, exactly. There's like actually like a lot of kind of post-launch stuff that I think, especially as a self-published game, it's like, oh yeah, okay, well we've got to stay on top of all of that stuff to try to kind of maximize the potential of the game in terms of getting it into like just letting enough people know about it as we can. But even with that, it's like you kind of lose this part of your almost what feels like losing part of your personality. Or that like that it has felt a bit like that to me, and you kind of have to figure out like, all right, well, yeah, who am I now? What am I like? I am now I'm one of the people who made the game
Yeah, that's
that
right.
is out, which and that's really cool, and that's like exciting to think about, and all of that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, it's a big emotional thing to work through. I think that
Absolutely.
we probably don't talk about enough in just the games like community and stuff. Yeah.
A lot of, not to interrupt your answer, Alan, I'll be brief, but there's like a lot of fear and uncertainty around as well. Like, and I'm sure that would be the same case if this had made billions of dollars hypothetically. You know, it's just like this. Yeah, the fear of the unknown is like another factor. You have to make sure that you don't freeze and stop.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
going. So
Yeah.
How about you, Ellen?
I think for me, it's a little strange because everything is so new to me at the same time. And like, I'm still doing what I joined to do literally before this call. I was like testing, before I was like, oh wait, I'm going to be late. So, um, everything is still kind of new to me, but I'm like, I'm finding that I'm like really learning about the characters and the game at the same time as players are almost, so I get to kind of feel the same reaction as they are. So when I'm on Twitter and I'm seeing people like, I really want to get close to Dr. Bouchard, and I'm like, me too, like, and it's kind of so it's a lot of fun for me still. And I do think that it's a little strange at times though, where I occasionally will have someone be like, oh, you worked on Wayward, congratulations. And I'm like, oh, yes? I
No.
guess.
oh, you
sort
did
of.
grab it with two hands, Ellen.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I think there's still a little bit of like it's not quite imposter syndrome, but it's kind of like,
Yeah.
it feels odd joining in so late in the game and still being associated. I'm like, oh well, a lot of it is for the rest of the team, you know. But I'm still really grateful, and it's still really exciting because I think, although I've worked on other games before, this is kind of the first time that it's been to this scale, and the first time that like came together to click the button, and just kind of watching that for the first time was kind of really like, wow, this is really like an experience I'm not gonna forget. And I think on the night of, I was telling Goldie, I was like very quiet because I was secretly holding in how emotional I was at the time, because I was just kind of like, this is kind of like coming as a newer dev into the industry, I guess. It was kind of like, this is something that I've dreamed of, even though that it's for such a short time. It was really overwhelming, so I was kind of just like quietly sitting in the corner with my Coke like, don't cry, no. But it was no, it was really fun, and I still think I guess I get the flip side of what you're all experiencing, because it's still kind of on the rise for me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on something that you said earlier, Alan, about how you're finding out about the game at the same time as the players are. I think that's pretty close to being a universal experience on the game. I think maybe Jason and Russell don't have it as much, and sometimes I get the sense that Maze also is very, very across everything. But I know I remember, and I won't say what it was because I think it's a spoiler that probably a lot of players still haven't found, but I remember like truly like 2 or 3 months ago, Goldie getting on the Slack and being like, this character is this thing? What? After like 6 years of working on it, there's like this character plot point that's like fairly significant for one of the characters, but you really only find it out if you're really in the right place at the right time. And similarly, I was watching one of my partners play the game the other day, and I saw the abandoned area for the first time.
Yeah, right. Welcome.
In real gameplay. Like I had seen sketches, and I think I'd seen like maybe one screenshot of Ted's room, but I'd never seen it in motion in a real playthrough. So all of us, even the people who've been here from the very beginning, we have moments of being like, oh, that is what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I
I still
think
get that.
yeah, well, like I think for me, and this might be the same for like Russ and Maze as well. It's like it's a different kind of discovering it with the players because for me it's just like I'm too close to it. Like it's a classic thing that that a lot of I guess creators say, but like up until launch, there was the forest, and I was like this with like a tree, like that was the bark, and I was just like looking at a
Look at
little
the
ant going
detail.
along the bark, yeah,
She
and
texted that teacup. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So like it's just so that's the thing where I feel like it's so exciting and I'm so curious, and I love watching streams and watching and just hearing people's experience of it because it's just impossible for me to know. Like, it's impossible for me to really play it, and it's impossible for me to know if I did play it. Like, is discovering this thing for the first time the exciting moment that I hoped that it was going to be, or is it confusing, or is it
Right.
like just a little bit like, oh, okay,
There
yeah,
you
I
go.
guess
Yeah.
that's a thing. Like, um, and it's not even that I want everything to land in the exact way that I had um, planned or assumed, because I think that's like one of the coolest things about just being creative and making something generally is that players bring so much of themselves, or the audience brings so much of themselves to it. Um, and that's like, yeah, just one of the critical elements of creativity is the audience and what they're bringing to the thing. But
Yeah.
I'm just endlessly curious about how it actually feels to play it for the first time. So I think I've even asked like Alan every now and then. I'm just like, how is it? What is it
Yeah, I was
like?
doing that with
Like,
Susan.
yeah, exactly.
Do you enjoy playing this again and
Yeah,
again and again?
exactly.
It's like, oh, good. Yeah. If
Yeah,
you,
it's funny.
I like that on our Discord. Like, we've got a very quiet little Discord community, but just in case you're watching this and you're like, oh, I'm curious about this, like, come into our Discord, which is linked in our Twitter profile, because we've just started having conversations with players who are like, hey, is it possible to solve this? Or is that just like, it's a mystery of the goat solvable? And it's like, haha, well, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like people like going for achievement, like trying to figure out how to get all the achievements, like that's incredibly satisfying to watch because it's very hard to work out.
Yeah.
I saw somebody set up a wiki.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah. I think there is still a lot that people can like kind of come together to collectively
Yeah.
figure out, and that's like, or at least yeah, I've kind of seen, I've seen tweets of somebody going like, "Oh, there's this thing." And like I'm curious whether, like, I'm pretty sure they haven't found the other three different
Yeah.
things that link into that thing in the game. Um, and so that's a thing that I'm excited that I think that's just gonna kind of build up more and more as people
Yeah.
kind of play it more and realize like, oh yeah, I could like jump on the Discord or jump on Twitter or whatever and
Yep.
start asking other people whether what they've encountered and whether it links up and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
I'm excited for the potential for that future to emerge.
Hmm.
Like, for that audience to emerge, rather.
Yeah.
And, we've been getting such good reviews that and from like really critical websites, gaming criticism websites like Uppercut Crit and RPS, they've just loved it. So I'm hoping that there's a way for the audience to come along behind it. Not because we want lots of money, but because we think it's like this kooky, cultish potential sleeper hit
Yeah.
thing that people can get really involved in,
Yeah, I think that's the thing that like probably in some of my like kind of like overall since the game launched it's been positive for me, but I think in the darker moments or whatever there is that feeling of like, oh, what if this does just like a few people play it and then it just fades away, and that's not. I think that wouldn't be the end of the world, but like it kind of sticking around a bit and people continuing to connect with it is really what I'd hoped that this would happen with it. And I think it's probably for a lot of us, it's the reason why it is like it is, like kind of the reason why it doesn't have a lot of traditional gameplay elements in there, or even like, you know, kind of current day gameplay designs or tropes that that are really popular, and that's kind of because we were hoping to make something that would last, that would kind of be relevant for a longer period of time. Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about a video game, especially for me as compared with a theater show. If people don't come and see your theater show, the season ends, it's over. At best, you have the script, but it's reliant on someone remounting it. And by the time they do that, it might be a completely different production and whatever else, completely different cast. Whereas with this, we already know people are playing it and loving it, and we know that people won't return to the gameplay because of some cliffhangery type hook that's really attention grabby. We know that people will return to it in their own time because of their care for the characters and their interest in the scenario, which is a much softer mode. And I think that, to me, although, you know, everyone dreams of their game making millions of dollars, at the end of the day, this makes sense to me because I think we always designed a game that wasn't going to be that sort of like, it's Call of Duty with chickens or whatever. Like, it's like it never had that hook, and it never had aspirations or design elements to like hook people's attention in that, you know, almost like violent way of like, play this, you know, like it was never that kind of game. And I think that then speaks to the fact that it was always going to be something that people return to over time, and that gains audience and gains eyeballs over time gently, as such a gentle product.
I think the one, like, if I had a time machine, it's so hard because it's such a good game. But it's such a good game that I don't want to change anything, including anything that might have made it easier to market. But the one benefit that would have been nice to have had if it had made millions and millions was just being able to continue working on game 2. And I'm not saying that we won't be able to. We've got a bunch of contingency plans. We've got, you know, still a lot of potential growth. And I think, you know, Ricky Haggett gave me advice once, which was like, hey, this is your debut. You're self-published. If you make a good game, that will be worth its weight in gold. For like maybe getting in with publishers for game 2, you'll have learnt so much. And that's so true. Like, yeah, I had that advice a few years ago, and now that we've released this game, it really does feel like we've learned a lot and could make the next game in much fewer years than 7. And maybe, possibly, with a little bit of, like, massaging of the messaging, you know, but not too much, because I think that those two things butt heads, but that's for discussion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like it makes sense to talk a little bit to, like, I think especially around the launch week and stuff, like, and kind of because I guess I was pretty involved in managing exactly what's happening during launch week and all of that kind of stuff.
There was a lot of support, I will slip that in, like, a lot of people, a lot of friends from the industry and a lot of websites, and even, you know, a ridiculous amount of console support, which was so nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sorry to interrupt. I just did want to pop that on the table as well. Like,
totally. Yeah. I think like, I think that's the thing, that once you're like, now that we're kind of over a week, you look back at the sum total of it, you actually get to realize, like, see in a better light, like, wait a second, we got tons of support, we got like yeah, we got tons of awesome reviews. I think like in the few days after launch, it was like kind of a thing that was hard to get out of my head was, yeah, what could we have done differently? And it was specifically, I guess, just more in the minutia of the launch, like, you know, should we have done this discount instead of that discount, or should we have
Right.
done like, should we have done our launch trailer in this way or that way or whatever, like. But I think even that stuff, you know, and I think part of that is it being, you know, self-published in our debut
100%.
title, and we just don't have information to work
No
off
frame
of.
of reference.
Yeah, and you know,
And even
we've
when
gotten
you
advice,
do,
but yeah,
Yeah,
even when you do have a frame of reference, this stuff is so alchemical. Like people will
exactly.
tell you that there's a particular formula to make it perform well on social media or whatever, but
Yeah.
on that given day, you know, typically on a Monday afternoon, people are on their socials, but on that particular Monday afternoon, it's like a statistically significantly lower audience,
Or
Yeah.
you know, or
Someone-
whatever that it might
really
be.
fucking famous died. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not naming names, the Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that stuff of like, I think both in the thing of thinking through the minutiae of how the launch could have been different and thinking about like that post-launch, like constantly refreshing the pages, like
Yeah.
this game is such a good example of like how that kind of thinking is kind of just so inevitable if you're launching something and you care about it, because like the
Yeah.
reviews really couldn't have been better, and yet you still sit there refreshing, looking for more.
Totally.
And you know, I think we did an incredible job of like launching like across being a self-published game that launched on 4 different platforms around the world, all in a 24-hour period, and we had the launch trailer together and we had all the things together. So you can do it pretty close to perfect and still be sitting there being like, but what if we posted at 6:30 a.m.?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
like it's so part and parcel of this
And
feeling.
I'll add to your list there, George, that a lot of us, like, this was our first time shipping any game. Not even, like, our own self-published debut, but, like, with another studio. This was our first game.
Yeah.
We hadn't been through that entire shipping process before, so...
And then, you know,
yeah.
yeah, for some of us that have been part of that, then it's just like, what did I forget? What did I
Right.
forget from?
I've
from
seen
that
how
other
stressful this
time?
is.
Yeah, but you know, it's I think it's yeah. Yeah, you go ahead, Alan.
Oh, I was just gonna say. Meanwhile, I'm here just having a good time. Just
That's awesome.
like, oh,
I keep thinking, like, are you learning? You know, and are you... Yeah.
100%. There's
That's
like
good.
so much that I'm kind of like, even the role that I'm doing now is like I'm still learning about that, and
Yeah,
just before
that's
this,
good.
I'm learning about dev kits and all of these things.
Yeah.
And, no, it's been such an incredible experience for me.
Yeah. It's like one thing that I'm curious about is kind of, you know, because if I imagine that I came in to a team that had just launched a game and it was getting like basically rave reviews, and they were like, oh, it's not, you know, there's quite a bit of negatives or whatever, I would just be like, what? Like, isn't that the dream? Haven't you done it? Like, I don't know, is there any of that feeling, Alan?
I think a little, but at the same time, I totally understand where you're all coming from as well.
Yeah.
Having worked on a team that was making their own game before this, I kind of understand at least a little bit the anxieties that go into it. So
Totally.
part of me is like, this is just going great, and I love everything, and everyone loves it. It's amazing. But I totally understand that, like, especially being self-published, and I think at least with newcomers into the industry, there's like this pressure put onto you have to find a publisher, or else you're not gonna do you're not gonna be successful if you don't. And it's kind of eye-opening to be like, no, there's lots of other options as well, and it's it's definitely been a learning experience. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's really good.
Well, we're sort of approaching the 45-minute mark, amazingly enough. Do people want to say any sort of parting thoughts? I think we've really covered, given a good insight into the different feelings that can arise around the launch of a game. And for anyone who's watched this far, thank you so much for joining us. Anyone want to say a few
Yeah.
last words before we finish up?
I think that right. I mean, this opinion will change and shift and grow. But today, if you asked me, like, I think it is ridiculous to think that there is one right way and one wrong way, or many right ways or many wrong ways of making games. Like, if you want to have a day job and make games in your spare time, that's great. If you want to work 9 to 5 for a lot of money on somebody else's game, that's great. If you want to work 9 to 5 on your own game with no money, that's great. Whatever it is that you choose is fine. The way that we did it was what felt right and what we felt impassioned to do, and the outcome is really good. And even, like, we'll never know the answer to what we would have, should have, could have changed, but yeah, it's just making me think that, like, if you ever have anybody who's like, don't develop a game for 7 years for pittance, that's, tell them to piss off. Like, just follow your creative bones. Like, nothing wrong with it. It's risky, but it's also really freaking beautiful. It's been a really good time, and it turns out it's a really good game. So, yeah, that's my main takeaway today.
Maybe that's a really nice note to end it on.
I'd love to hear other thoughts. Anybody else got any quick ones? Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I did actually just have one thing of just, like, wanting to, I guess, reiterate, and I think this is from a lot of the team, like, just people's reactions to the game, and from reviews to just what people have been saying online and what people have been telling us personally. It's incredibly kind of I don't know, fulfilling, emotional, lovely,
exciting.
Like, I think we're all kind of overwhelmed about the response to the game, and just, I guess, thankful, and it feels so nice that people care about it and care about this weird and wonderful thing that we've made together.
And also, like, what weird and wonderful work is going to come after it, hopefully.
Definitely.
Yep. Keep eyes out for Game 2, everyone. Releasing on all major consoles in 3 months.
Wayward Strand, cut loose. We should do Wayward Strand after dark. That was one thing that we were going to do.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm so passionate about it. Everyone just fucking and killing. Yeah. Wait, I don't know if we can swear on this. Someone bleep that if you need to. Jason's sitting there like, we really had a good ending. Until then. Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Bye!
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
If you've played, thank you so much for playing. Leave us a little review on the Steam store of what you thought of the game. If you haven't played yet, please do.
Yeah.
We just love hearing everyone's point of view on it. And again, if you do it, then leave a review or join our little Discord and join our game chat and ask the questions that you have, and get in touch any way that you like, because we only make this for an audience. That it only really becomes real at the point where people are playing it and telling us what it means to them, and having an experience with it. So we love hearing from you. And thanks for watching this talk.
And make sure you check out all of the other great Victorian games that are part of the Migwa Steam event as well. Just sorry to... Yep.
Yeah,
cool.
totally.
Beautiful.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.